Welcome back to Streamline Entertainment. It's Marvin speaking. We're going to get straight into a video. And this is basically by Talk TV, and it seems like a conspiracy to involve others. Jay Slater admitted to stealing a Rolex watch. This is by Julie Hartley Brewer, and she's talking to ex-Met detective Mike Neville.
Let's talk about Jay Slater right now. Well, I mean, a few weeks ago, we were talking about this British teen on his very first holiday abroad, this innocent abroad who had gone missing. Now more and more has been coming out about the 19-year-old British man, which is what he was, obviously going missing, hugged by his family, hugged by the police for him. Completely understand. No one would want someone to disappear in such circumstances, and we would always hope that this man could be found alive. But more is emerging. Let's talk about this with Mike Neville. He's a former Metropolitan Police Detective Chief Inspector. He also worked at the Missing Persons Unit at the Met, and he joins us in the studio. Good morning to you, Mike.
Good morning, Julie.
I think I was the first person in the mainstream media, such as we are, to actually raise on the show. Why are people not talking about the fact this man has got a conviction for a most horrific machete attack? Just a few years ago on another young man, with a whole gang of sort of feral youth. I thought that was kind of relevant. There's now an awful lot of other allegations going on.
The thing is, they never really get their sort of facts right. I think the way that they've looked into it, they've just, sort of, in a small way, just looked through some of the paperwork or some of the stuff and went through it and said, oh, he was involved, Jay did this, Jay did that. Look, he was there, he was a bystander, it was out of order. He was very young at the time as well and had to do community service. We're there for aiding, abetting and egging the others on and provoking Tom later. That's what we've heard. He was no angel, but like I said, sometimes these professionals or talk TV shows, they tend to just put things out there as they see it rather than looking into it deeply.
About this man and the drug dealers apparently whose home he went to on the night he disappeared, claims that he admitted to friends he'd stolen a £12,000 Rolex that night, on the night he was at a club in Tenerife and was trying to sell it hours before he vanished. More and more is coming out. Is it any wonder it seems, other than in the media, bizarrely little sympathy for this case?
Yeah, it's really strange, and the Spanish police seem to have handled this really badly in the sense that they put all their eggs in the one basket of this search in this area, and I can see that that's probably where he is. If you look at all the evidence and the pinging, the mobile phone,
a number of different people. Yeah.
But however, to interview, they were offered assistance by Lancashire Police, and they interviewed in a very cursory way the two men who were at this Airbnb and then allowed them to leave the country. Now we find out the guy received a 9-year sentence. I mean, that's a significant sentence, 9 years, for dealing Class A drugs in Wales, or attempting to do so. So how would you just... And when we look
these were complete strangers. We're told. So Jay Slater's on a holiday. He goes to this music festival, this big club. He leaves it in the early hours of the morning, travels with these two men who he apparently doesn't know, who are 20 years older than him, to a home he doesn't know. It turns out to be an Airbnb. These two men, one of them, did you say, has a conviction for that ain't he had a bit of cannabis, is it? 9-year sentence for drug dealing. And they've left the country. We're told by the police in Tenerife that this has got nothing to do with the case. But there were suspicions, a lot of stuff. We've been told, I keep seeing media go, and terrible conspiracy theories online. Well, a lot of them, I mean, the stuff they were referring to as conspiracy theories included the fact that this young man has this conviction for a horrific crime himself involving this machete attack. These things are surely relevant. An innocent young boy abroad is very different from someone who's a convicted criminal who's gone with other convicted criminals in a different field, obviously, and that's where he's last been. That raises a completely different aspect to him going missing.
Well, there's often a tactic with the police. If the victim, when a crime or any victim, missing person, they do try and portray them as innocent because then they get more information.
Yeah.
If you say somebody's been murdered and they're a drug dealer, people think, well, they've got the comeuppance.
Yeah.
Whereas the police want to solve the crime, so they downplay that, and so it's goodies and baddies sort of thing.
Yeah.
With this, though, with the Spanish police, what I don't understand is that instead of putting all their eggs into one basket and looking at the element around the park, in the background, of course, he should have been doing all these inquiries, and it wouldn't have taken very much indeed to get hold of the guy's passport, ask the Lancashire police for a PNC check, and would have revealed all, and then it would have flagged up these suspicions. And the conviction with Jay Slater, when you look at what the judge says when he sentences the gang, he mentions all sorts of things about drug dealing when he's doing that as well. So there is a real, all these
There's a lot of information.
There's a lot of information.
Also, by the way, the media saying, oh, it suddenly emerged that he's got this...
I do think the Guardia Civil hadn't dealt with this case very well. It was too nice in my liking. And like I said, they should have done a background check on Ayub, which they didn't do, and Rocky, if he says he was there, which I don't think he was. And Rocky did say he didn't get interviewed because he wasn't there. I think they're protecting someone, and I think that person they're protecting is, let's just say, a bit bigger than them. But like I said, I think a lot of people know who that person could be.
Conviction. The picture the media were using from word go was the picture that was used in the original news reports about the conviction for the machete attack. So I mean, they all knew, everybody knew. And again, I'm not again referring to him as a teenager. I mean, he's a 19-year-old man.
Yeah.
Look, I hope he's found safe and sound.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't want anyone to. I mean, God knows what has happened to him. What is your? You've looked at the missing person. You worked at missing person units. You looked for people before. What is your best guess, best estimate, best surmise?
Well, because of the ping on the mobile phone in this remote place, if I had to bet, I would say possibly exhausted, collapsed in that area.
But who plans to walk 11 hours home?
Well, if you're you're 19, daft, if you've taken drugs, taken drink, you're not thinking sensibly, you do stupid
You're trying to run away from people?
Possibly. But then it involves a conspiracy. These other people who've given information, say, rang me up and said these things, or he's lost and all that. So would these people involve these individuals to tell a lie? It seems that seems like a big conspiracy to involve other people. But they may be lying, but the Spanish police need to look into this. The other thing they've handled badly is the press. We're dealing with like a sort of life on Mars scenario where they're not telling the press what's going on, there's no press briefings, they call off the search.
That's because they're trying to protect the island, and the case got out of control for them, for the Guardia Civil, for the government, and they had to put a lid on it. And this is why I think this story was crafted. I do think Roman was a lot to do with why nobody was arrested in Masca.
And there's no senior officer in front of everybody telling. So they've handled it badly, and they were offered assistance by Lancashire Police and foolishly refused it when they could have done all these checks and given all
the family's still out there. There is a crowd fund. It's got over £50,000, but there have been quite a few accusations online about what's going to be done with that money. The family have said that is going to go to any further efforts to search for Jay Slater. I really, really hope that he is found alive. I'm sure we all do. Wouldn't wish that on any family, but really interested to get your thoughts on all of this, Mike Neville. No doubt we'll talk to you about this again. Former Met Police Detective, Chief Inspector, worked in the missing person units.
What I find is quite sad about the media at the end of the day, it's always very wishy-washy in what they said, that, it could have been criminal elements, but I don't think they sometimes Talk TV looked into the case. Yes, they're talking to police officers and stuff like that, but it is wishy-washy. Sometimes they don't look at it as much as what we did, and then they go on to something else and thinking that, that case is resolved now, it's put to bed. But we know that there's more to it than meets the eye. Mike Neville, he probably had a good look at that case and realised that it was criminal elements involved as well, as many other ex-police officers as well. Let me know what you think, people. Thank you.